Tinseltown's allure offers beauty, power, and immortality. But beneath the limelight hides a grimmer truth. When being young is the only virtue, even the most admired stars can lose their natural dignity, chasing a fleeting plastic ideal. What begins as a simple enhancement can spiral into irreversible damage, frozen faces, and shattered identities. Today, we reveal the most harrowing tales of fame lost to the scalpel. Stories of fame, fear, and faces forever changed. Watch closely because these aren't just makeovers. They are warnings. Jessica Alves. A living warning, witnessing. Jessica Alves' journey over the years feels less like watching a star rise and more like observing a slow-motion collision between identity and obsession. For those of us who remember an era when beauty was defined by natural grace, her transformation is genuinely unsettling. Once notorious as the human Ken doll, she chased a plastic, airbrushed ideal that seemed more cartoonish than human. Yet, that was merely the prologue to a much deeper struggle. Starting her surgical path at just 17, she underwent invasive procedures that would make most ethical surgeons recoil: artificial abdominal etching, constant nose reconstructions, and the harrowing removal of 4 ribs to achieve a smaller waist. As she transitioned to live as a woman, the surgeries only intensified. From full facial feminization to breast augmentations, reports now suggest she has spent nearly $1 million, a staggering price for a face that is constantly under revision. Beyond the shock value found in the tabloids, there is a haunting psychological toll. Despite nearly losing her nose to necrosis, tissue death, after failed procedures, she remains undeterred, often telling interviewers she still isn't finished. As a viewer, one has to ask, when does the quest for the true self turn into a dangerous addiction to the scalpel? Jessica's body has become a living, breathing warning. It's a story about the terrifying possibility of never finding peace, no matter how much of yourself you cut away. In an era where youth is worshipped, she reminds us that the most tragic loss isn't our wrinkles. It's our original self, vanished beneath layers of silicone. Simon Cowell, the mask of perfection. For those of us who spent our Tuesday nights with American Idol, Simon Cowell was the gold standard of brutal honesty. He was the man we loved to hate, possessing a sharp wit that perfectly matched his commanding, classic presence. But as the years rolled by, even the indomitable Simon fell prey to the cutthroat insecurities of Tinseltown. Afraid of losing his edge in an industry that prizes a smooth forehead over seasoned wisdom, he began a quiet, desperate battle against the clock. What followed was a cautionary tale played out in high definition. Botox, fillers, and various lifts transformed the face we knew into something unrecognizable. At his lowest point, his skin appeared unnaturally shiny and his expressions frozen, a mask that lacked the character of the man beneath. The most poignant moment of this saga didn't happen on a stage, but in his living room. Simon revealed that his young son, Eric, burst into tears upon seeing his father's distorted appearance. That childhood innocence acted as a mirror, showing Simon a truth that no Hollywood publicist could spin. He had gone too far. Today, following a harrowing e-bike accident that nearly left him paralyzed, Simon has had a change of heart. He has famously dissolved his fillers, vowing to leave the horror film looks behind. Now, in his mid-60s, he embraces a lifestyle of clean eating and fitness, looking more like the Simon we remember, worn perhaps, but authentic. His journey reminds us that there is no shame in a life well lived showing on one's face. The real tragedy isn't growing older. It's losing the very features that tell our story. Linda Evangelista, The Price of a Promise. For those of us who remember the vibrant fashion magazines of the 1990s, Linda Evangelista was the ultimate chameleon. She was the leader of the supers, famously quipping that she wouldn't wake up for less than $10,000 a day. To our generation, she wasn't just a model. She was the gold standard of elegance and high fashion. But Linda's story took a heartbreaking turn that serves as a sobering reminder of the risks hidden behind the routine promises of modern cosmetic technology. Between 2015 and 2016, seeking a non-invasive way to maintain her legendary figure, Linda turned to cool sculpting. What was marketed as an effortless refinement became a permanent nightmare. Instead of shrinking, her fat cells expanded and hardened, a rare, irreversible condition called paradoxical adipose hyperplasia, PAH. For 5 years, the woman who once ruled the world's runways lived as a hermit, hiding in her New York apartment, crippled by the shame of feeling deformed and unrecognizable to herself. When she finally broke her silence in People magazine and Vogue, it wasn't just a legal maneuver. It was a reclamation of her dignity. Though she settled her lawsuit in 2022, the physical and emotional toll remains. Seeing her return to the spotlight today is bittersweet. It exposes the cruel, impossible pressure to never age, even for the most beautiful women in the world. Linda was betrayed by an industry that promised perfection but delivered a cage. Her journey reminds us that true grace isn't found in a quick fix, but in the courage to show your true face to the world after it has tried to break you. Katie Price, The Living Experiment. To those of us who have watched the media landscape shift over the decades, Katie Price represents a jarring departure from the grace we once associated with public figures. Emerging in the late 1990s under the pseudonym Jordan, she possessed a natural radiance that quickly made her a fixture of the British tabloids and a curiosity across the Atlantic. But Katie didn't just participate in the beauty industry. She tried to conquer it through sheer surgical force. What began as a single breast augmentation spiraled into a record-breaking obsession. Reports indicate she has undergone over 16 breast surgeries, alongside multiple facelifts, rhinoplasties, and endless injectables. Over the years, her appearance has shifted so radically that she is often unrecognizable from one year to the next. While she defiantly labeled herself completely plastic as a badge of empowerment, the medical community has viewed it differently. Renowned surgeons have gone on the record to warn that her body is at a breaking point, citing the dangerous thinning of skin and the risks of repeated anesthesia. Now in her mid-40s, the control she sought through the scalpel seems to have vanished, replaced by headlines of financial bankruptcy and personal turmoil. For an audience that values the dignity of a life well lived, Katie's story is a sobering, cautionary tale of self-erasure. She has turned her own body into a living experiment, pushing the limits of what a human frame can endure. Her journey forces us to confront a haunting question. When every original feature has been altered, reshaped, or replaced, what actually remains of the woman who started the journey? Joan Van Ark, the fear of being forgotten. For many of us, Tuesday nights in the 1980s weren't complete without tuning in to watch Joan Van Ark as the endearing Valine Ewing on Knots Landing. She was the quintessential American beauty, vibrant, talented, and possessed of a vulnerability that made her feel like a member of the family. We grew up alongside her, but as the decades passed, the face we welcomed into our living rooms began to change in ways that felt deeply unsettling. As Joan aged in the unforgiving glare of the spotlight, the transition didn't mirror the natural grace we saw in some of her peers. Instead, her rare public appearances became a subject of hushed concern. Her skin appeared unnaturally taut, her features altered to a point where the woman we remembered was buried beneath a mask-like exterior. Though she has never publicly confirmed undergoing surgery, medical experts have frequently pointed to a likely cycle of multiple facelifts, brow lifts, and heavy fillers. There is a profound, quiet sadness in this transformation. It speaks to a quiet desperation often found in Hollywood. A fear that once your youthful bloom fades, you become invisible to an industry that once worshipped you. Now 81, Joan has largely retreated from the public eye, choosing a life of privacy over the scrutiny of the tabloids. To our generation, her legacy remains intact through the memories of television's golden era. yet her story serves as a poignant warning. It reminds us of the heavy price paid when the terror of aging outweighs the dignity of simply growing older. Pixie Fox, The War on Biology. For those of us who grew up admiring the natural elegance of Hollywood's golden age, Pixie Fox's journey is difficult to comprehend. She didn't seek to enhance her natural features, she sought to delete them in favor of a living cartoon fantasy. Aiming to become a surreal hybrid of Tinkerbell and Jessica Rabbit, she treated her body not as a temple, but as a piece of malleable clay. The sheer scale of her transformation is staggering. Pixie reportedly spent over $250,000 on hundreds of procedures, including multiple breast augmentations and even a controversial surgery in India to change her eye color to a permanent sea green. However, the most chilling moment for many viewers came when she underwent a 5-hour operation to remove 6 healthy ribs. While most ethical surgeons refused, she eventually found one willing to perform the procedure to achieve a record-breaking 16-inch waist. But tinkering with nature carries a heavy price. The bold claims of empowerment eventually faded into a somber silence. Following reports of a life-threatening complication during a surgery in Turkey that allegedly left her in a coma for several days, Pixie vanished from the limelight to focus on her recovery. Today, she lives a much more private life, but her image remains a haunting fixture of the digital world. For a generation that values the tangible and the real, her story is the ultimate cautionary tale. It forces us to ask, when we sacrifice our health and our humanity to look like a drawing, what is actually left of the soul inside? Carrot Top, the king of props and perception. To many of us who remember the high-energy comedy boom of the 1990s, Scott Thompson, the wild-haired redhead known as Carrot Top, was a whirlwind of neon props and slapstick humor. He was the quintessential underdog who turned a trunk full of gadgets into a comedy empire. But as the decades rolled on, the conversation surrounding the king of props took a curious and often uncomfortable turn. It wasn't his punchlines making the nightly news. It was his strikingly altered appearance. As he moved into his 50s and 60s, audiences noticed a dramatic shift that felt out of sync with the natural aging process. His cheekbones appeared sharply chiseled, his brow unusually arched, and his skin possessed a smooth, taut quality that many found jarring. The whispers in the industry were loud, with speculators suggesting everything from brow lifts to laser resurfacing. Yet, Carrot Top has remained steadfast in his denial. In interviews ranging from Oprah to more recent podcasts, he has insisted his freaky look is simply the result of getting jacked at the gym, a religious skincare routine, and the simple fact that he's a redhead who avoids the sun. He often famously quips, "If I had plastic surgery, I'd look a lot better than this." Currently, he remains a titan of the Las Vegas Strip, headlining a massive, long-running residency at the Luxor. He is as funny and hard-working as ever, but for the audience, a sense of irony lingers. A man who spent his career using exaggeration to make us laugh now faces a public that isn't sure if his own reflection is the ultimate prop. For those of us watching from the seats, his story is a poignant reminder that in the neon glow of showbiz, the truth often matters less than what the audience perceives. Blondie Bennett, The Quest for Emptiness. For those of us who remember the debut of the Barbie doll in 1959, she was a symbol of fashion and a vessel for young girls' dreams. But in the hands of Blondie Bennett, that childhood icon has been twisted into a troubling modern distortion. Blondie's transformation isn't just about the thousands of dollars spent on 5 breast augmentations and endless facial fillers. It represents a chilling departure from the human experience that our generation finds difficult to fathom. The most unsettling chapter of her story isn't found in a surgeon's office, but in the realm of the mind. In a series of widely publicized interviews, Blondie revealed she was undergoing weekly hypnotherapy sessions with a specific, heartbreaking goal: to lower her IQ and become brainless. She spoke openly about wanting to be a vacuous, decorative object, believing that by dulling her intellect, She would finally achieve the ultimate doll-like existence. While many hoped it was a publicity stunt, she insisted she was truly becoming confused by simple tasks, such as forgetting how to drive to her own home. As we look on from a generation that fought for the empowerment and intellectual advancement of women, Blondie's quest for emptiness feels like a profound tragedy. She hasn't just altered her appearance, she has attempted to forfeit her very soul to fit a plastic mold. In a world that often prizes superficiality, Blondie Bennett is a living reminder of what happens when we value being looked at over being known. It is a sobering cautionary tale. What is the cost of perfection if you must lose your mind to achieve it?